I'll count you in. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Right. I'm Councillor Bob Johnston. I'm chairing this meeting, and I believe a member of Democratic Services will now indicate who is on the committee and who will be participating.
Thank you, Chairman. Paul Batesman here. I understand that the whole committee is here, bar one member who has a substitute. So, with your permission, could I take the roll call?
Please do. Please do now.
Thank you. If please, councillors, you could just say present when I call your name. So I'll begin with Councillor Jerry Avery.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Ron Batstone.
Present.
Councillor Simon Howell.
Present.
Councillor Bob Johnston.
Present.
Councillor Diana Lagova.
Present.
Councillor Robert Madison.
Present.
Councillor Val Shaw.
Present.
Councillor Janet Shelley.
Present.
And Councillor Max Thompson.
Present.
And we also have, as I understand, Councillor Debbie Hallett and Councillor Judy Roberts as local members for one of the applications. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Well, welcome everyone to the meeting. I have a few announcements to make before we start with the agenda items. This is a meeting of elected district councillors appointed by the council to determine planning applications. This is a meeting in public, not a public meeting. Due to the current situation, we are holding these meetings virtually in accordance with the Coronavirus Emergency Act 2020 and in line with recent changes made to the council's constitution. As the meetings are now taking place virtually, there are some changes to the way the meeting must be conducted, and I will briefly outline the format of the meeting. We will start the consideration of each planning application by hearing the planning officer's introduction. Pardon me. The ward council will then be invited to speak, and they have up to 3 minutes to address the committee. They can then be questioned on their statement by members of the committee. After the ward councillors have finished speaking, members of the planning committee can ask the officers for any points of clarification on the application. And in that context, if at any time somebody wants to speak or ask a question, can you all please make sure you've got your chat function up? That's the one that says it's no, I'm not the share one. Yes, it's about it's the third from the right end of the toolbar, and it says conversations. If you click on that, chat will come up and you can type into it, and you have to enter it. It's not just typing, you have to actually type and then enter, and keep it short. As I said, can I ask a question, or I would like to speak, something like that. Please can you make sure that you spell anything you put in chat correctly, and you do have the opportunity to correct words if you not quite get it right. So the secret is not to try and type too quickly, because I have been at meetings where mistyped words have shown up in chat, and frankly it looks awful. Right. Now, any statements sent in by the town or parish councils, applicants, objectors or supporters have all been sent to members of the committee 2 days before this meeting, and they have all been published on the council's website. I've personally read them, and I hope the members of the committee have. Now, I shall not have them read out again, but members of the committee are free to refer to them in their questions or their statements or speeches if they want to. That's fine by me. After points of clarification have been answered by the officers, I will ask for a motion. And again, please indicate that you've got to do this in chat. In other words, I propose or whatever. I will then ask for a seconder, and please again indicate this in chat, and I will then open the debate. And again, as I said before, if you wish to speak during the debate, indicate this in chat, and I'll try and call people in strict order. Once the debate is ended, the Democratic officer in turn will ask each of you for your vote on the application. And please state whether you're in support of the motion, against the motion, or abstaining. And because of connectivity issues, if anybody drops out and misses a big chunk of the presentation, for example, they are to declare themselves absent when we come to the vote, because you won't have heard the whole of the presentation. And for that reason, if during the meeting you lose connection, please advise me as soon as you can using the chat function. Okay, thanks very much. We'll now get on I believe we've done items 1, item 2, item 3, declarations of interest, and I believe there's a statement to be read out.
Yes, Chairman, Paul Bateman here. I have that. I'll just get it up on my screen. Bear with me.
That's all right. That's the thing about virtual meetings. You have to be prepared to wait while things connect and stuff.
Yes, I had my folder prepared. Yes, if I may, I have a joint statement here from Councillors Bethia Thomas and David Grant, and it's in respect of application P19/V1340/FUL. That's the second item, which is 13 to 17 London Street, and it begins: Dear Chair and members of the Vale of Whitehorse Planning Committee, we are writing to you to explain why, despite being ward members for Farringdon, we are unfortunately unable to comment on this application due to conflicts of interests. Councillor Thomas previously worked for and is friends with the developer in question, whereas Councillor Grant lives in close proximity to the proposed development. While we are aware that the Town Council are objecting to the development, we feel it would be improper for either of us to comment on this application in either direction to avoid the appearance of undue bias or impropriety. We understand the development manager has used her discretion under the circumstances to call this development into the planning committee, and we thank the committee in advance for giving the application its consideration. Yours faithfully, Councillor Bethia Thomas and Councillor David Grant.
Thank you very much for that. I have no urgent business, and we've already received the statements from the public, and I've referred to them previously. Democratic Services, have we received anything, any late submissions of statements or anything like that?
No, Chair, nothing further.
So everything is as published. Okay.
Yeah. Could I just quickly mention something about the officers supporting this meeting? I'll just mention the planning officers' names, and that's Emily Hamilton, Martin Deans, Susanna Mangian, Holly Bates, Adrian Duffield, and Stuart Walker, whom I understand will be presenting the first item. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so that then gets us to agenda item 6, which is Tilbury Fields off Bushy Close, Botley, Oxford, OX2 9SH, and it's being presented by Stuart Walker. So Stuart, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, this application seeks to regularise public realm works within the Tilbury Lane development that differ from the approved scheme, which, if approved, would seek to resolve outstanding enforcement matters on this site. The application was originally considered by the Planning Committee at the meeting held on the 29th of January, where it was deferred for officers to report back on several issues as detailed in paragraph 1.1 and section 5 of the agenda report. Following the January meeting, landscape plans have been further amended to include the provision of 35 additional trees in the public open space to compensate for trees not planted in rear gardens. These are highlighted in red on the plans in the agenda pack, and I will go through those plans shortly to show those areas. The legal team has also confirmed a deed of variation is required to the original Section 106 legal agreement to resolve issues relating to public open space areas to be transferred to the council. The completion of the deed of variation would be separate to the determination of the application before you, but is included for context regarding changes to the approved scheme. Members have received written statements from interested parties, and in response to the two statements for this application, officers respond as follows. The comments from the resident in Seacourt Road regarding maintenance relate to land outside of the application boundary and it is not within the applicant's control. It is a third party that owns the land in question. The comments from the Residents Association are noted, and I have received the following response from the developer in reply. We have made it perfectly clear to residents on several occasions that the site will not be transferred to them until the planning application has been approved and any conditions complied with. And we have also informed the lead of the association that he will be in attendance for the handover to the managing agent. The 2 swales have yet to be planted, and we are going to do it, but we are keeping an eye on the weather so we do not plant in the middle of this hot spell, as plants are being planted in the swales need to be wet to establish initially. We will, of course, get these done as soon as we can, and we will be adding these to the watering regime for the site to give them a chance of survival. The grass seed has been sown, and the whole area was scarified to remove as much weed growth as possible. Prior to sowing grass seed, we treated heavily weeded areas with a herbicide, which has helped, and additional topsoil was laid. The seed has yet to take place due to the incredibly long dry spell we have recently had, and we propose to attend and reseed in September for any areas that have not taken over the summer, and it is something we are regularly monitoring. We have regular maintenance visits on site, as well as watering 2 to 3 times per week as per the guidelines. Again, anything that has failed will be assessed in September and replanted prior to final handover. With regards to roadblock paving sinking, there are 4 areas that are in the most heavily trafficked area on site, and all roads have been laid in accordance with the design as witnessed by OCC Highways. Anyhow, we have agreed to do remedial works again, and we will be doing these shortly. We have a meeting with the contractor starting on Monday the 8th, a meeting with the contractor on Monday the 8th of June to review all remaining remedial works to the roads for them to complete them so we can formalise a programme which will be issued to residents as we have done previously when we have ever done work on the highway within the site. From your officer's perspective, the enforcement of conditions is set out at paragraph 5.9 of the agenda report, and officers consider the suggested conditions will address the concerns raised by the Residents Association. I'm now going to go through the plans and recap the proposal for you. So on screen now is a general site layout of the hard surfacing areas.
Please note that sometimes the slides take a few seconds to come up. It's just the way the system works.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone can see a layout plan.
Nope, I've just got the original.
Moving on to a photograph.
I've got the layout plan now. There's quite a delay on this.
Okay, I will take my time. So the application seeks to regularise changes made to the as-built development in respect of highways, drainage, landscaping and the bin store to Block C, which is here in the centre of the site here. We've got Tilbury Lane running north to south in the middle of the 2 sites. So we've got North Hinksey Parish on the eastern side of the road of the lane and Cumnor Parish on the left. The key changes to the approved scheme are in terms of the surfacing of the spine road, to correct conflicts between highways, drainage and landscape plans, and to Tilbury Lane to provide a long-term solution to the gate problem that was restricting vehicular access. So these are now the bollards that have been in place. Bollards have also been installed at Hope Way that were shown on the original plans. And the surface water drainage system as built is satisfactory, and the drainage engineer has no objections to the scheme, subject to re-gritting of porous paving areas. This can be secured by condition, and on the basis of that, officers consider the revised drainage scheme is acceptable and complies with policy CP 42 of the adopted local plan and can be approved as an alternative to that previously agreed. The bigger changes to the scheme relate to landscaping, and the proposal is seeking to deal with numerous changes. to the hard and soft landscaping, including changes to parking bays around the locally equipped area of play and amendments to footpath routes around the site. I'll just take you through the landscape plans. This is one that was shown in January, highlighting the trees that were missing. So we're on the northwest corner of the site, and this is the latest amendment with the additional planting highlighted in red. Again, moving eastwards towards Tilbury Lane, in purple are the trees that are missing, and the planting that's now proposed as a compensation, again in red, in the public open space to the north. This is the area to the north of the play area, in the northeast area of the site. And again, you can see on the screen the areas highlighted in red where the additional tree planting is going in this area. Moving to the south of the site, so we're just above the allotments here with Tilbury Lane on the east. Again, you can see the trees in the back gardens that were missing. There are no trees in this particular part of the site being proposed, but moving on to the eastern side of Tilbury Lane, we do have some more trees, again to the south here at the bottom with Seacourt Road. This is a view, photograph of the play area. A street view showing some of the trees that have now been installed with the tree gates. This is the local area of play and the main central square. Back to the site plan. Overall, officers consider the hard and soft landscaping is an acceptable alternative to that previously approved, and the proposed landscaping does not materially diminish the character and appearance of the development, and a high number of trees are retained within the public landscape areas to provide the most benefit to the context of the development. The remedial work identified is continuing, and landscaping, if approved, can be secured by condition to ensure it is completed and maintained. The application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions listed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart. I now call Councillor Judy Roberts, and you've got 3 minutes and can be questioned.
Oops. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, committee, and thank you for allowing me to speak. When I was elected in 2007, I worked on the first outline and then the reserved matters of this application. Some amendments were made and it was then approved. In November 2014, Persimmon started delivering building materials in the road outside residents' houses for 5 months. By 6 months, with the help of 5 enforcement inquiries, we had a site office and a construction management plan. Regular meetings were held between Cumnor Parish Council and the developers, and many problems were solved along the way, including the university land agent providing the sales document that showed that Persimmon had bought and owned all of Tilbury Lane from the A420 to the Ensham Road, which appeared to be quite a surprise to Persimmon. Once the development breached the Tilbury Lane, all the problems with drainage, the roads, the boundaries and the safety issues of Tilbury Lane and the gate, as mentioned before, all 9 versions of it, in brackets, thank you for the bollards, became apparent. That is the checkered history. But then where are we now? The university has built a separate access road for the Tilbury farm, so the use of Tilbury Lane is now mainly pedestrian and cyclists. The roads have a private road agreement with the County Council, and although they are nearly in correct condition, once the land is transferred to the management company, the residents will pay for their maintenance. The drainage system has now been approved, but I agree with the report that securing the last repairs by condition is wise. We have some extra trees, which gets us close to the number provided in reserved matters. But the landscaping is still not thriving, not only at the back, but also throughout the new planting in the block paving for the roads. Some of those trees look to me as if they've died. And I would like to see a condition that makes the developer liable for the viability of the landscaping, not the maintenance, for the next 5 years. I would agree with the council serving notice on persimmon if they fail to comply with the conditions that have been set before transferring the land to the management company. And the cost of maintenance of Tilbury Lane from the A420 to the Ensham Road will have to be borne by the management company without contributions from the current residents of Tilbury Lane. But that can be altered as the sale of those properties progress. I'm happy with the rest of the outcomes and feel that with a huge effort from the planning and enforcement officers and the councillors and the Residents Association, we have achieved the best possible result for the residents of Tilbury Fields. And I now agree with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Judy. Do any councillors wish to ask questions of Councillor Judy Roberts? Don't see anything in chat. So, Simon Howells, yes, please ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Roberts, I'm interested in particular about your comments about the trees and the landscaping as it currently stands, because I am concerned about the ability to establish the trees. I fear that some, like you say, have died. And the landscaping, which is obviously key to the residents. So I'd be interested in your further comments about those two matters, please. Thank you.
Yes, it happens to be a current dog walk and walk to the shops for me, so it's a very local development. A lot of the trees, as you go round, obviously not all of them will have burst into leaf, but surely by now most of them should have. And there are some in, I think there's one in the square and one down Hope Close, one section of Hope Close, and there's some others over in the North Hinksey side, which don't look very healthy to me. And certainly when you walk at the back, as you saw from the photographs that the Residents Association have provided, although some topsoil might have been added, there's an awful lot of very sandy soil. And for the last 2 years, I've been taking my dogs through a 2 to 3 foot high thistle pad. So the whole of that back area is full of weeds, and it will take several years, I think, to really settle and become what I would call topsoil and able to support the sort of landscaping that they have put in. To give you some idea, they did landscape the Cumnor side somewhere around 2017, and it's now looking good, but certainly for the first year or two the swales didn't work as well as they should have, and some of the reeds died and the trees died back. So yeah, it has taken a good 2 years for that side to develop, and this side is in a worse condition, so I suspect it will take even longer, hence my suggestion of 5-year condition.
Are there any more questions of Councillor Judy Roberts? In which case, Judy Roberts, I'll say thank you very much. And I now call Councillor Debbie Hallett. You have your 3 minutes now, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. I came in on this project in 2011 when I was first elected, so Judy preceded me by quite a few years, but I've been involved in this since the day I became a district councillor, and I would love to see the back end of this, really. It was sold as a future leafy green and lush neighborhood full of mature trees, and it was quite beautiful in the artist rendition. And the disappointment, well, is understandable, the disappointment with homeowners. You've hopefully read their statement, and with all of their help and input over the years, we have finally come to what looks like maybe the end of this road. But the main thing, in my opinion, is that due to the failure of the developer to rectify these problems as they came along, there's been an erosion of trust. So no one really is convinced that when they say they'll do something, they really will. Hence, everyone's attention on enforceable conditions. So I would ask committee to please consider carefully what you can do, as the homeowner's statement said, to handle the conditions of the landscaping that needs to be completed, and also the subsidence of the roads that they've pointed out. And or if there are no conditions that can make that happen, refuse this application until such remedial works are completed. That's harsh, but we need to be certain that the work that is required is going to be completed without the financial liability of the homeowners association or the management association. I did hear Stuart say that the developers have said they wanted to be perfectly clear that there would be no transfer of this land until the approved work was done, and that would be just lovely, just wonderful. So thank you for your attention and good luck. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Councillor Debbie Hallett? Please indicate in chat if you wish to ask a question. I don't see any, so thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Right, we now come to questions to the officers, and I'll start off with one, if I may. I'm looking at the recommendations on page 4 of the agenda, and there's 3 conditions. And remembering that we have to, all conditions must pass the 6 tests of reasonableness. In other words, they must be reasonable. The question I would like to ask is, do does the recommendation need expanding in any way? Because I think we mentioned controlling by condition the necessary replanting and maintenance and watering thereafter. So is that covered by the present wording, or does that need expanding?
Thank you, Chairman. It's covered by the existing wording of the condition. It's been checked with our enforcement team that it is enforceable, and it refers back to the establishment survey report earlier that was submitted earlier by the developer. I'm quickly going to share my screen with everybody to see the full wording of the condition. It does refer to 5-year maintenance. So if you just bear with me.
Of course, we'll do that. I think that would be very useful and very valuable.
So hopefully members can see on the screen now the wording of condition 2, which is saying within the next planting season.
Yes, got it. I'm just reading it very quickly. No, that's fine. That's fine by me anyway. I don't know what, any comment from anybody else? Right, thank you, Stuart. That I think I would point out, of course, as a qualified biologist, that I personally wouldn't seriously consider planting or replanting any trees now until September or October, because the soil is hideously dry at the moment, and you know, they're just not going to survive. And I'd also point out that if any trees haven't burst into leaf by now, they are almost certainly dead and should be make sure they're on the list for replacing. Any other questions? Any other questions for the officers? No, I don't have any questions. Well, in which case then, can somebody move a motion, please? Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, Janet Shelley, you have a question. Please ask it.
Thank you, Chairman. It's regarding the road repairs, and I know that there's section 5.8 about clarifying whether further works are required in relation to road repairs. But I was just wondering if the planning officer could expand on his views regarding a recommendation, because there isn't one for the road repairs, and whether that would be possible at all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. The road repairs are covered by the private road agreement with the County Council. So work is being monitored by Andy Hicks, I believe, who is the senior engineer that's been looking after this project, and he's been monitoring that. And we've also got it. The control is in the second condition as well, because it's hard and soft landscaping. So the materials on the top are covered by the hard landscaping. So there is sort of a two-pronged approach there with our enforcement team and our own planning condition as local planning authority, but also ultimately the responsibility lies with the County Council as highway authority. But Emma is working in conjunction with the highway authority to ensure that these remedial works are undertaken.
Okay, thanks very much. And Councillor Max Thompson, you have a question. Would you like to answer it? To ask it rather. You're muted. You need to unmute.
There we go. Is that better?
That's better.
Great. Yeah, so I think my question might be very similar to Councillor Shelley's. So, but just with the sections 5.7, 5.8, I understand that future liability for maintaining the roads will be transferred to the management company. And then in 5.8 it says that the officers consider no further works in relation to road repairs are required. Does that include the subsidence, sorry to get the wording right, the subsidence that's flagged to us by the Residents Association? And if so, should we be putting a condition that that subsidence is repaired prior to that being transferred over to the management company, and can we do that?
I don't believe we can do it as a condition, because ultimately it's part of the roads agreement team. So if the county council sign off on it and say it's acceptable, then we wouldn't have any enforcement power to take action against that. But we are working in conjunction with them. But we do have the hard and soft landscaping in the suggested condition too. At the time the report was written, this area hadn't been brought to my attention, and speaking with county colleagues, they were satisfied with what was built. But as I said, it's ongoing maintenance and monitoring over the summer, and the developer has now picked this up that they will be doing remedial works. So I'm confident it will be rectified without the need of a further condition.
Okay, just sorry if I can come back on this. So one of the key issues we've heard about, and indeed I was at that previous council meeting where we decided to defer this, was the erosion of trust between the tenants and the applicant in this case. And I guess my concern is that if we can't place a condition on to make the applicant address the subsidence, then it may not get done. And I guess maybe this is something for the debate, but I just want to be absolutely clear that we can't place a condition in forcing them, not forcing, that means that they would have to undertake this before transferring it to the management company.
I believe they will do the work before it's transferred to the management company, but as local planning authority, we don't have the jurisdiction to enforce it. It becomes a county council matter as highway authority.
Okay. Right, thank you. Are there any more questions to the officers? Thank you very much. In which case then I will ask somebody to propose a motion. Would somebody like to propose a motion, a member of the committee, please?
Yes, Chair.
Please. Yes, Councillor Jerry Avery.
Yes, I would propose that we accept it subject to the strict conditions as very clearly outlined by Councillor Roberts.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I second it. It's Councillor Diana Lugova.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody want to say anything? I personally think just about in the numerous debates we've had on this, I think just about everything that could be said has been said. But if anybody wants a final crack, now is your chance. I see nobody indicating. So, Paul Bateman, would you like to call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair. Again, by strict alphabetical order, if you could say in favour or opposed or abstain, please. So to begin with, Councillor Jerry Avery.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ron Batstone.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Simon Howell.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Bob Johnston.
In favour.
Councillor Diana Lugova.
In favour.
Councillor Robert Madison.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Val Shaw.
You're muted.
Councillor Shaw.
I can lip read. I think she's saying in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Shelley.
In favour.
Councillor Max Thompson.
In favour.
I think that's unanimous, and the motion's carried.
That is indeed unanimous. Thank you.
And planning permission has been granted. Thank you all for that, and thank you, Stuart Walker, for your significant efforts on this long-running saga, and thank you for the ward councillors for their diligence in bringing this to a conclusion. Thank you very much. Right, we just check my papers. Right, well, when the officers are ready, we will move to item 7, which is 13 to 17 London Street, Farringdon, SN7 7AE, and the paperwork starts on page 38. So it's Susan Mangan, I believe, and Susan, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, everyone. I'm just seeing if I can get my screen shared. I don't know if anybody can see. Hold on a second.
So it sometimes takes a second or two for things to show. It's
Okay, if anybody could let me know if they can see my screen.
I can't see anything at the moment.
Chairman, just while we have a pause, Paul Bateman here. As members will know, we're seeking 2 decisions, one on planning permission, one on listed building consent.
Yep.
Is there any sight of the presentation?
Nope.
Right. Still no?
Nope. Ah, hang on, something's changed. Yes, we've got it now.
Oh,
As I said,
fantastic.
there's often a time lag, and people just have to get used to it. When I first started using Teams, I found it difficult, but I now expect there to be a lag, and I'm not surprised. So carry on, Susanna. You're doing well.
Thank you, Chairman. The applications have been referred to Planning Committee at the request of the Planning Manager. Since my report was published, a revised floor and roof plan was sent to members of the committee to reflect the up-to-date layout of the cycle parking. In addition, I received a submission from Farringdon Town Council, which followed the publication of my report. I understand this submission was circulated to members of the committee.
Correct.
Lovely. Okay, and then on the screen, we've just got the location plan. The site is a Grade 2 listed building within the conservation area and the town centre boundary of Farringdon, and it is currently in mixed use comprising retail, residential, ancillary storage and vacant office space. As you can see, it's on the corner of London Street and Swan Lane. The applications are seeking planning permission and listed building consent. The scheme principally comprises the following elements: conversion of existing offices and storage buildings into 4 1- and 2-bedroom residential units, erection of a new building at the rear of the site to contain 3 1-bedroom residential units, demolition of a storage and garage buildings at the rear of the site, and the provision of 13 car parking spaces and 13 cycle parking spaces. There will also be widening of the access and widening of Swan Lane, providing a new pedestrian footway around the northern part of the site. So firstly, I'm going to show some photos of the site to put it into context. This is showing the site from London Street and again here. And then moving on, this is the corner of the site looking from the rear on Swan Lane. And looking, this is the rear of the site from Swan Lane. The previous one was just on Swan Lane, looking towards London Street. And this is opposite the site. You can see Granary Mews, which is on Swan Lane and part of the existing site, which is sort of informal car park. Then coming on, we've got the rear of the listed building. And here's the bakery building. This is a garage building which is proposed to be demolished, and a storage building which is proposed to be demolished. And then if we turn to some extracts from the plans, this is the existing elevation. I'd like to point out the facade on London Street, which is not proposed to be altered. Here we have the proposed elevations. The retained buildings on site So, you know, the historic building involves the insertion of some new and replacement windows, railings and stairways to the rear and side elevations, but as I say, the front elevation will be retained. And then this slide shows the proposed elevations of the new build component. This will be at the rear of the site and is a 1.5-storey building providing 3 new residential units. It is proposed to be constructed of brick with stone detailing and a slate roof. This element of the scheme has been reduced from the original 2.5-storey 4-unit building, and the purple dotted line that you can see shows the reduction from what was originally submitted. This slide shows the street elevations. You can see the existing on the left-hand side of the screen and the proposed on the right-hand side of the screen, and it gives you the context of the new build, really, in the in relation to the listed building and to the properties on Granary Mews. And then finally coming on to the site plan, where you can see on the left-hand side of the screen the existing layout and that sort of block along the left-hand side where they're going of the buildings to be demolished, and then the proposed plan on the right-hand side shows the position of the new build block. And then I've just returned to the street elevations. So turning now to the planning considerations, the material considerations were included at section 5 of your officer's report. The main issues that raise particular concerns with consultees are as follows. Firstly, the loss of office accommodation to residential, particularly having regard to policy 4.5F of Farringdon Neighbourhood Plan. Secondly, loss of light and privacy to nearby properties. And then thirdly, the level of parking provision and construction traffic concerns. So firstly, considering the loss of office accommodation, Farringdon Town Council would like to see the office accommodation retained rather than converted to residential accommodation. This position is supported by the neighbourhood plan, which seeks to encourage office and employment uses in the town centre. However, the independent viability report concludes that in the current climate, residential use is the only viable option. The office accommodation has been empty for over 4 years and does not benefit from a street frontage. In addition, this is a listed building and an economic use of the buildings needs to be found to ensure the long-term viability of the building. Officers do not consider the conversion to residential will significantly detract from the vitality of the town centre, as the offices have already been vacant for some time, and there will be benefits to existing commercial shops and units in the town centre by the presence of these new residential units. Secondly, regarding neighbour amenity, the original scheme was significantly revised and its heightened footprint reduced, as well as balconies being removed in order to address concerns about the impact on neighbours in terms of loss of light or privacy. Planning conditions are also proposed to be imposed to require the sill level of roof lights to be built at least 1.7 metres above finished floor level, and first floor windows in the north elevation to be obscure glazed to ensure the privacy of the properties on Swan Lane. Officers consider the impact on neighbours from the revised scheme will be acceptable. And then thirdly, turning to the parking provision and construction traffic concerns. Concerns were raised since the proposed parking will be for the new build and newly converted units of accommodation, and the existing units will not have allocated parking. However, officers understand that whilst there is car parking currently at the rear of the site, the existing residential and retail units do not have allocated parking, and so it is not reasonable in planning terms to require the scheme to provide this. Furthermore, the highways officer has recommended that the site is at an accessible town centre location and there is good access to public car parks and to public transport. In addition, there are on-street parking controls in the vicinity. The County Highways Officer is well aware of on-street parking issues in Farringdon, and having assessed all the information he does not consider there are sufficiently strong grounds to object to the scheme. A comprehensive construction management condition is required to ensure the development can be undertaken as sensitively as possible with regard to impact on the highway and parking, and also neighbour amenity. Lastly, the scheme brings public benefits in that there will be a widening of Swan Lane to provide a new section of public footpath, which will be of benefit to highway safety. On balance, having regard to all the material considerations, officers consider the scheme, which utilises previously developed land, should be granted planning permission and listed building consent. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, we know the position of the local members, and I do not propose to revisit that. Do any members of the committee have questions for the officer? Please indicate in chat. I have several. While other people are thinking. First, Susan Mangan, can you confirm that the proposed development conforms to the Vale's design guide?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we did spend sort of quite a lot of time with revisions of this scheme, in consultation with the conservation officer and, the principles of the design guide to ensure that we, that the scheme achieves a building that's appropriate for, for the conservation area and the setting of the listed building, and also takes into account the impact on neighbours. So yes, we believe it does, Chairman.
Okay, and can you confirm, and I hope I've read my papers fairly thoroughly, but I can't see any technical objections from any of the technical consultees. Is that the case?
Yes, Chairman.
Right. Right. Yes, Simon Howell would like to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to revisit one of the statements around what for me is the primary concern around the car parking and the access to the site, just to make sure I really understand, because as a frequent visitor